The aircraft slowly appearing from screen right is the Lear 35A by Flysimware. This is a quick glance of that aircraft so far. But first, a little bit about the real airplane. The Lear 35 is a two-pilot all-weather aircraft with a service ceiling of 45,000 feet. The TFE 731 engines produce 3,500 pounds of thrust each. Normal cruise speed is somewhere in the vicinity of Mach 0.75 to Mach 0.78. Now, moving on to the actual Flysimware version of this airplane. To begin, please keep in mind this is an early access build. Anything seen in this video is not meant to imply that this is a final product. Modifications to the aircraft, including paint themes, are still coming. There are currently 3 different choices of avionics packages for each livery. There's a working title GNS 530. There's also a GTN 750 by PMS and a GTN 750 by TDS software, which is what this is and is my GPS unit of choice. On your first flight in the Lear 35, you're going to hear this sound. That is known as a trim clacker that is there to help alert the pilot of a runaway trim, but it can be silenced using the electronic flight bag or the tablet on the pilot's side window. As the N1 and N2 digits move, they also clack. Those sounds can also be silenced. While talking about the tablet, cabin windows, tray tables, doors, non-essential aircraft lighting, and equipment can also be controlled from this tablet. Basic weather information is also given, such as wind speed and direction, as well as outside air temperature. Payload of the aircraft can also be changed, as well as fuel information and weight and balance. Last of all, there's a checklist for every single phase of flight, starting from pre-flight all the way through shutdown. Battery usage on the tablet is also modeled. To charge a depleted battery, click up here, and to get rid of the tablet, simply click where the camera would be located and the tablet will be stowed. Now let's take a look around the cockpit to show the realism and attention to detail that went into this aircraft. This is a partial list narrowed down from about 15 items. The engines on the Lear 35 are not FADEC controlled. It is possible to over-temp the engine, just like it would be in the real airplane. Another nice little feature, since we just talked about over-temping the engine, the ITT or interstage turbine temperature. In every airplane I've seen in Microsoft Flight Simulator, ITTs always match. Every jet aircraft I've flown in the real world, they never match. And as you can see here, there is a split in the ITT temperature in the air. The next feature relates to aircraft systems. The right engine is running. A cross generator start will be performed to start the left engine. Once the left starter is engaged, the amperage will spike on the right side. At approximately 50% N2, that starter will cut out and the amperage will drop. Watch for 50% and watch the amp drop on the right side. There's 50% and there's starter cutout and the amp drop. When starting a turbine engine, one thing the crew wants to see rather quickly is oil pressure. Here's the oil pressure gauge and it's showing 0. There's a reason for that. The generators on this aircraft produce DC power. Some engine instruments, lighting, and avionics require AC power. Once the inverter is turned on, as you just saw, there's now oil pressure, and also avionics work and some other lighting will work once that inverter converts DC power to AC power. Moving on to the next point as we approach runway 36 at Chicago MIGS, and where else would we go in Microsoft Flight Simulator in a Lear 35? As the aircraft touches down, the thrust reversers will be activated and nothing happens. Going back to try again, this time the thrust reverser switches will be armed. Thrust reverser deployment requires these switches to be armed, and also the aircraft has to be on the ground. Once that happens, the reversers are activated, the deploy annunciator is illuminated, indicating the thrust reversers are fully deployed. Another hidden little feature is inside the altimeter. Besides being an altimeter with an altitude selector on the left-hand side, the baro knob has some additional features. Press and hold for 1 second to set the altimeter to standard pressure. Hold the baro knob with the left mouse button for approximately 4 seconds, and you can switch between inches of mercury and millibars. And last of all, if held for approximately 8 seconds, you can change the altimeter units from feet to meters. The times stated are accurate, but if you're really bored and you're timing it saying, hey, that took less than 8 seconds, that part was edited out to save time. Another small dose of realism, the gear warning horn. Below 14,500 feet, when the airspeed reaches 170 or less, the horn can be heard. Above 14,500, below 170, no horn. That is also how it works in the aircraft. I do have 4 type ratings, none of those are in a Learjet. However, I did do some research to make this video by reading through pilot training manuals for the Lear 35 that were found online. And one last little dose of realism, when the autopilot's turned off, the maneuver button on the right side of the yoke handle can be pressed, which will also, as you just saw, turn the flight director off. The Lear 35 by Flysimware at the time of this recording is a work in progress. The developer has definitely done a lot of work thus far to make this airplane as close as possible to the real thing. And to help make the airplane even better and realistic, real-world Lear 35 pilots, one of which is a former simulator instructor, have helped make the airplane even better by being beta testers. This is definitely not a first look type of video. Prior to making this video, I spent approximately 15 hours flying the Lear 35 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I try to teach at least one thing in every video. And I did receive a free review copy of the Learjet 35, but also in my review videos, I typically do not discuss price or give a recommendation on whether or not to buy the airplane. I simply present what I have found and give my opinion on realism. There are tons of little features hidden inside the Lear 35. Here's one more of those little features, but to help find those features, a way to do this easily is go to accessibility and turn on all the tooltips, including instrument description tooltips as seen on the screen here. Once those changes have been made, be sure to apply and save your changes before exiting the screen. Now when hovering over the speed mode selector button, a menu comes up like this showing more options. The left mouse button will activate this switch, but if the left mouse button is held and the right mouse button is clicked, it will switch to Mach. In my opinion, the airplane is very easy to hand fly with a little bit of practice. The controls are responsive, but not overly responsive or erratic by any means. I also love the fact that someone made a basic jet airplane that does not have auto throttles, a glass cockpit, or VNAV. I will admit all of those features are nice to have in the real world, but before having those features, I learned to fly in jet airplanes that didn't have any of those features. So completing tasks like making altitude restrictions, knowing when to descend, all that had to be figured out using mental math. It's safe to say a jet airplane like this one with basic avionics will help a person appreciate all the automation that comes with a modern jet aircraft. In closing, if you've already purchased the Lear 35, I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. At the time of making this video in January of 2024, the Lear 35 is not available in the marketplace. It's only available on the developer's website at flysimware.com. And if your attention span has allowed you to still be here, here's a short little cinematic film I made as a reward. Thanks for watching.